Did you know I designed a new MMO video game today? Unlike the David game, which I thought was an MMO, but I didn't know the real definition, I just thought massive multiplayer online. I thought that could include an FPS game, as long as there's a lot of people playing it and it's multiplayer. But I was wrong in that assumption. So that game is not an MMO, but this one is an actual MMO. So this is the third video game I've announced. It's a new project. It's a little overwhelming for me, though. No, it's not David Part 2. It's completely different than David. This is a medieval game. David's a biblical times game. Well, I guess there's some similarities. I imagine a lot of the character models and weapons models and stuff could be reused. So that's a good point. But, David game's a single-player campaign with multiplayer FPS and battle modes. Whereas this game will be just a pure MMO. People said it had a lot of similarities to Guild Wars 2 and World of Warcraft and other MMOs. So also it's got similarities to The Sims. It'll be interesting to see how these video game projects go. I hope that my internship program will take care of making these games for me, as well as my artificial intelligence will do a lot of the game making. I myself plan to contribute, but a lot of my contributions will just be the game design and creating the AI, which I need to create anyways for the robots and stuff. But yeah, I think that I'll need some people, some actual human people to help out. Because making video games is a lot of work. I don't think it's that realistic for me to do it all myself. Although, I mean, I might. It just depends how much time I have over the next 80 years. Well, I'm concerned whatever name I go with will get taken, so I kind of want to leave it unnamed. But I don't know. I wanted it to be some play on Game of Thrones and World of Warcraft, so like World of Thronecraft or World of Thrones. World of Thrones is my first pick. If I had to choose all the names I wrote down, World of Thrones I think is a really good name for it. It's not David Part 2 though. David's a Bible game based very closely on the story of David in the Bible, whereas this game has magic and healers, tanks, DPS, all the MMO stuff, and wizards and stuff. It's like way different. Stop listening. It's gonna have ogres and dragons and stuff. None of that stuff was in David, the story of David in the Bible. So I don't want this completely fantasy-based game to be tied into the world of David, which was based in reality, a historical time period. This is all fiction. This is more Lord of the Rings and Merlin and King Arthur, which is all fake. So I don't want something I believe is real to be misconstrued with something I believe to be fake. One game's realistic, historical. One game's total fantasy. Yeah, it's meant to be Game of Thrones, Merlin, World of Warcraft. Um, Lord of the Rings. It's meant to be an amalgamation, a mixture of all of those different um, sources of inspiration. But the good thing is, all the resources for the David game can be copy pasted right into this. So you're right, it's gonna be like David Part 2 as far as like the work involved. Just it's like taking David and then tossing in fantasy, so ogres, orcs, trolls, whatever. But the David game will be a great foundation for the architecture, the weapons, the armor, the fighting, the battle style, everything. So it's super copy pasted from David. That's gonna save so much time. It'll just have a lot more added to make David into an MMO. Unless if we write a story of how magic entered the world after David, open parentheses, not based on historical reality anymore, close parentheses, and then we go from there, and then it is David Game Part 2, but it goes total fantasy mode. But that's a stretch. It doesn't need to be tied to David Game. They're separate titles, separate games. They don't need to be based on each other or a continuation of one another. But fans of the David game will appreciate it and see the similarities and see what was taken from the David game and brought into the next game. And people just finding out about the MMO might play the David game. So if you have a collection of games that you've made, people will check out your other games. So that will be good advertising for David if people start playing the MMO and then they hear talk about the David game, they might try playing the David game. And if people love the David game, they'll be more likely to try out the MMO. So it's all going to help one another. And same with the zombie game. People that like the David game and the MMO will want to try the zombie game too. You know, part of me doesn't even want to make games. I don't know why I do want to make games. The other part of me does. I mean, it's a lot of work. I don't even play games anymore. But here I am designing game after game. I just can't help it. I think making game designs and making games sounds like it just seems cool. I like it. I don't know. Maybe I mean, I think the idea of making games is cooler than playing games. No, I don't want to make an app. I want to make a AAA multiplayer massive online game. And I want to have millions of players. And it's going to be the biggest MMO of all time. It's going to be for Windows PCs only. I already designed the whole game, so I guess I am superior to a whole game design team, considering I designed the game without any help, and it took me only a couple hours. Now, as far as creating the visual world of the game, that's all going to be done by AI, so in that regard, I'm like Notch of Minecraft, and that my game will be generated through algorithms. AI is the key to everything when it comes to me making video games. It's all about AI. AI will generate the music, will generate the characters, the armor, everything. All I have to do is say, design me a castle. The AI will make a castle. Put more shops in the castle. It'll make a bunch of merchant shops. Add more housing to the castle area. Extend the walls. The AI will just follow voice commands. It will just build the game according to what I say I want the game to be. And I'll just look at it and make comments, and the AI will change it according to my whim. I don't have to actually sit there and 3D model anything or lay brick by brick or anything. The game will be generated by artificial intelligence. If I want to make a dragon boss, I'll say, make a dragon boss, and the AI will make it. I'm going to create this AI code. And it's going to be so easy. All you have to do is make the AI one time, and it can learn to make anything. Because it's going to learn and improve itself and whatever, so it will be like as smart as a human, except way faster and more productive than any human. It will know how to research online, find reference online, and make art inspired by things it finds on Google image search or on YouTube. If it needs animations, it will go online and search for dragon animation, or it will watch dragon movies and see how the dragons move, and it will tailor the animation and the fighting of the dragon based on movies and other stuff it finds on YouTube or whatever. I am a top level coder. The highest level they come, I'm that level. If coders are ranked level 1 through 100, I'm a level 100 coder. I'm way better than Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg's like a kindergartner compared to me, and I'm like a college masterful professor for PhDs and master students only. That's the only people I would be willing to teach. And he's like a kindergartner compared to that. At the moment, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed about the burden of creating all of these games. It just seems like a tremendous amount of work. But that'll pass. The robots will do most of the work. I'll do a little bit just so I can be actively part of it and see my vision come to reality. And I don't want to create a social media platform. I want to create robots and video games and have the robots make products and just basically do automation stuff and AI stuff. I'm an artist, and I consider robots to be an art form and video games to be an art form. And I like to create stuff and create stuff that has practical purposes, create stuff that entertains. I think that as more and more society becomes automated and robots take over, people are going to need entertainment, and I think video games are a good form of entertainment. I don't like that they're addictive and stuff, which can be a negative impact, but I think that with maturity and when people find a purpose and a vision for their life, that they will move on from video games at some point. But when people are kind of down and out, or don't really have any immediate pressing vision for their life, and they just want to kill time, I think video games are okay for that. I've had times in my life when I had no big business plans, I had no big agendas. I was just chilling, passing the years away. And I played video games like 80 hours a week. And I loved it. I don't regret it. But you guys can see I've changed. I don't do that anymore. Because I have a vision. I'm a man on a mission. I'm no longer consuming entertainment materials as much. I'm making them. Although I still do consume entertainment materials. I consume audiobooks, I consume movies and TV shows still. I think there's a place for it. the heck else are you gonna do when you're not working? You gotta relax and be entertained somehow. You know, there's always the option to not make a game. If I years later no longer have an interest in it, I think it sounds dumb. And that applies to any project I write down. I can bail on it if I think it's just a bad project, but if I still believe in it years from now, I can always promote it to be a main project. Let me just tell you guys one quick thing. I already have 2 game projects that seem kind of far-fetched, right? Because it's like, how's one guy going to make 2 games? And I already have plenty of robotics projects and stuff. I don't need more projects, right? I don't. But I can't help it that I woke up this morning and I was picturing in-depth details, going into a lot of depth into design of a MMO that I think would be really cool if it existed. And and then after I got out of bed, I was like, well, let's just forget about that. I got to get to work. And then it just hit me. What are you talking about? You don't just design a game in great detail and then not write it down. That's such a huge waste. Waste of creative energies. Waste of something that could have been really enjoyable for millions of people someday. So I had a moral obligation to write it down. Someday, I could be famous or something, and who knows, maybe my fans will like actually take part in my internship program and actually do the stuff I asked them to do, basically be like free slaves. And that will make it way easier to do things like make a video game by having a lot of slaves. Plus, my AI and my robots can help. So, never underestimate the power of slavery to get stuff done. That's the takeaway. Now, this isn't the evil kind of slavery like racist slavery or unwilling slavery. This is volunteering slavery. This is people saying, I like Larry, and I like his ideas, and I want to give him my time and effort to make one of his ideas come to life. And then Larry will make billions of dollars, and I won't get a thing. Although he might say thank you if I'm lucky. He might acknowledge me, I'm not sure. And that's pretty much it. I think that's a fair arrangement. I think that's very fair. That's what my internship program's all about. And they get to tell their future potential employers, I interned for Larry, and their employers will say, really? What did you do? And they'll say, I helped to make this video game or this robot, and they'll say, wow, that's really impressive. What did you do? And then they can take them to my official internship page and see specifically what that intern did, and they'll get full credit, and then the employer will be like, you're hired. So they'll benefit in that they'll be extremely employable thanks to what they did for me. And they don't even have to come up with a cool project that they can show off to an employer, because I do that. I come up with a project, the interns do the project, everyone wins. Thanks for gifting that sub, Richard. So the game's not going to be a sexual game, because I am going to be a father and a pillar of society, an example to others. And I have to be of the highest of moral character I have to be a model citizen, and I cannot do anything that is not becoming of a gentleman and scholar, and a sex game would not be becoming of a gentleman and scholar. Therefore, I can't do a sex game. Plus, that would alienate a huge player base. People that would play the sex game would play the non-sex game, I'm sure, if it's good enough, high enough reviews and whatever. And people that are not allowed to play a sex game, which is a lot of people, married and children, their wives wouldn't let them, their parents would let them, whatever, they would be alienated from what would otherwise be a game that they'd really want to try. So, for that reason, I have to be mindful of not alienating. Plus, as I said, a sex game is too naughty for a gentleman and scholar of the highest moral fiber. And so, for business reasons, accessibility reasons, etc., it is not a viable option.